All right, with the Oaks and Derby out of the way, I'm going to talk about a couple of other spots on the card and a couple of other plays that I like, and we'll see where we go from there. On Saturday in the first race, interestingly enough, one of the things I always like to do is, spot horses I think are talented early in their careers and follow them. It's rewarding when you're right. Sometimes they turn out really good. I have a close friend of mine. When Arrogate broke his maiden, I told him he probably wouldn't have Haskell. He told me I was crazy. How could you know that? And when you watch these horses run and you watch the game as long as I have, you just pick up on certain little things. You can't really put your finger on how you do it. You just kind of do it. It kind of comes to you. Arrogate didn't win the Haskell, but he won some other pretty important races. There's a horse running in the first race on Saturday that when I saw his debut, I actually thought he was Kentucky Derby material. It was that impressive. He flew home, galloped out. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to the gallop out, think it's overrated, and to some extent it is. But this horse galloped out like a monster, not like a racehorse, like a monster. I mean, he was just uber impressive, in my opinion. When he ran back, I thought Derby caliber horse, top 3-year-old. When he ran back, he won, and he ran a nice race, but not the kind of race I expected, and probably not a Derby material kind of race. But he is lightly raced. He is improving. He's the second choice on the morning line. He comes from Baffert's barn, so he's going to get played. But I think the horse is a runner. He's a Bodemeister colt. I love Bodemeister as a sire. And his name is One Son Whiskey. He's on the tracking trips list. He won the first time on the list at a very short price, granted, but he did win pretty easily. And Baffert brings him with the contingent that he's bringing over, for the Oaks and Derby. And if he goes off the second choice or a decent price, I'll probably start the day off, finding a way to bet him either on top of one or two exactas, or maybe singled in a pick 3 or something to start the day. If he's the second choice, I wouldn't even be adverse to betting him to win. But he'd have to be the second choice. I don't think I'd bet him to win as a favorite, even though I do think he's going to win. I would just probably go after the exactas and the pick 3s. Another race that I like on Saturday, which I think is interesting because not only is it the race before the Derby, so it's in the pick 4, pick 5, pick 6, whatever you go after, but it's also part of the Oaks, Woodford. It's a Turf Classic. Derby pick 3, which is one of the bets I'm going to go after, as I said earlier, because I like, Baffert's horse in the Oaks. So that bet makes sense to me with a single there. There's 2 horses in the Turf Classic that both, catch my eye. And the beauty of, these pick 3s, 4s, and 5s on days like this especially, is I don't have to single that leg, and I could use 2 horses. I could even use a couple more, but I could really punch those 2. So if I take my single, Rhea, with those 2 into the horses I like in the Kentucky Derby, going back at Mendelssohn, I could put myself in a position to have a really good day, because both these horses are nice prices. The first one of them, I'm just scrolling to them on the form. The first one is Eurolov, I believe you pronounce it. He is Chad Brown, Kurlov, I'm sorry, he's a Chilean horse. Chad Brown doesn't bring in a lot of horses from Chile, but any horse he brings in, we know, is a well-met down. I mean, there's no question about that. He wouldn't be in the barn. He's only run 5 times on the turf. He's won 1. He's got 2 seconds and a 3rd. But only one of those starts was in the States for Chad with Lasix, and that was the Gulfstream Park turf Grade 1 race, where he really closed into Heart to Heart, who was the only speed that day. I think he goes forward big time off that race, and I think he's a major player in this race. You know, he's a horse I'm gonna key off, but I like another long shot in the race, so I'm in a position where, because I'm taking my shot in the Oaks, I could use both of them, even a couple more. The other horse I think is really going to run a big surprise race on Saturday is Yoshida. Yoshida is 15 to 1 on the morning line, will probably be right around that area. And in my opinion, first time 4-year-old coming off the layoff, is going to take a big step forward and run a really bang up race here. I think he's catching some older horses, not quite at their best, some tailing off a little bit. Deauville is going to get a lot of money. Not sure that he's the same. Wouldn't talk anybody out of using him, but not for me. Shining Copper is always scary with that speed. You never know when they get out there. Nobody goes with him. This is a horse that likes to wing it and then try and get home. He's dangerous, and on a big ticket I'd probably throw him in. Synchrony is a very interesting horse, another one that I would probably use. Beach Patrol, I guess you got to throw in on a deep ticket. He'll probably be the favorite, and deservedly so. But the two that I'm really going to try and take down some money with are Kurlov and Yoshida. They'll be the two that I have multiple pick 4s and 5s with, and that pick 3 that I spoke about earlier. I think they're both really, really dangerous, and either one can jump up and win. So I kind of like being in that position, and that's how I'll play that. In the 5th race on Saturday, there's another spot that I like a little, and that is the 6-horse Behavioral Bliss. Behavioral Bias. This horse is stretching out to a mile off some rock solid sprints. He's 5 to 1 on the morning line. Probably will be about that. You got horses like, McCracken in the race, and Dazzling Gem, and Petrov, who will all take money, and all take more money than the horse that I like. But this horse looks to me like he's sitting on a race. He's stretching out. I think the mile is right up his alley, and he's another one that I'm definitely going to play, and that's one that he's my play for the race. I won't be using anybody else. If I bet any early pick 3s, 4s, 5s, anything like that, he would be the one that I would use as a single. And also, he's a horse that I will bet, by himself as well. Another very interesting race to me is the 6th race, the Humana Distaff, Grade 1 race, and 7 furlongs. Really, really nice race. Very competitive. I kind of like, I've got it narrowed down to 3 contenders: Ivy Bell, Lewis Bay, and American Gal. But of those 3, I like Ivy the best, for Todd Pletcher at 3. Fast horse. Pletcher hasn't had her that long. Had a ton of trouble last out. Won anyway. Runs against a tough, salty bunch here. But I would use the 3 of them, but definitely go back at Ivy Bell. I think she's going to be a better price than the other 2, probably in the 5-6 to 1 range, which for Castellano and Pletcher is fair, especially in a small 8-horse field on Derby Day. But that's a horse that I think is really improving in Todd's barn. I respect Lewis Bay a lot. I respect American Gal a lot. Like I said, I'll have a ticket with the 3 of them, and then another ticket with Ivy Bell, and I would definitely consider betting Ivy Bell by herself. So those are 3 spots on the Saturday card that actually 4 that I like, and I'm going to try and, as I explained, position them to maximize it the most if indeed I turn out to be right. And we'll be back in a little bit with a couple more plays and look at some races on Friday.